Hey guys, this is Kinsey Pannone. I am doing my final project on a secondary classroom where the teacher is going to go over a lesson for prefixes and suffixes. Prior to this lesson that she's about to start, they did do a pretest which activated prior knowledge, and that's what they're working off of.
We have detainment, right? Okay, can you guys see it all the way over there? Okay, so what I did was that I took D, because that was the prefix. I took tain, because it was one of our Latin roots. And then I took ment, because it's one of our suffixes, okay? And on my
The first thing that I noticed was the poor camera angle. It's pointed where you can only see two students, and while those two students do seem engaged in the lesson, it definitely takes away for not being able to see the entire classroom.
paper, because it says to explain it, and what happened in second hour is that people wrote almost like 2 or 3 sentences explaining how and why they deconstructed their words this way. If you want to do it that way on the test, it's totally fine, but personally I like to get straight to the point and short and sweet type of thing, okay? So what I did was that I took
Well, I think it's great to give students options, especially when it comes to deciding how they want to show their work. I think when it comes to an assessment, she needs to be a little bit more straightforward. She says that they can write sentences or only write the definition, and I think that's going to cause some confusion. She needs to be definitive when it comes to assessments.
and put the definition next to each one then, okay?
I really like how she's modeling how to work through a problem. Since the kids did a pretest and they practiced on their own, now she's going through and showing her thought process so that they can see what the proper way of doing it is. You can also tell that the students are engaged, well, at least by the two people that you can see in the camera. Both the boy and the girl are working, and the boy is writing down what the teacher is writing on the board.
Okay, so D is opposite, tain is to have, hold, and ment is action or process, okay? You don't have to do it this way, but you can if you want, okay? Does everyone kind of like have an idea of how they did the deconstruction? Does yours guys look like mine, or is it a little bit different?
I just didn't have the words.
I didn't have it.
I just wrote prefixes.
I did slash.
Here, the teacher is eliciting student responses. She asks if their response on their paper looks the same as the one on the board, and you can hear the students engaging in the conversation and saying whether or not they did. And she's definitely listening and about to respond to a student that says something doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense?
When you do hold them, so how is it the opposite?
It's coming from the other way. It's like they have that
Oh, okay.
There we go. Okay.
At this moment, the teacher allows a peer to help the student that's struggling instead of answering the question herself, which definitely helps students collaboratively construct meaning. The only thing that I wish she would have done a bit differently is that once the student responded, I wish that she would have reiterated that response to the entire class, because I can barely hear the student, so I imagine that the whole class couldn't hear her as well.
So, we're gonna work on the next two, okay? So, because Kerrigan looked like she wanted to do one so badly.
I'm not sure at all that's.
Okay, you can do the third one over here. And then we'll have Ryan. Can you do an equably? Thank you. And just do it the way how you did on your paper. You don't have to do it the way that I did, okay?
Having students come up to the board to complete problems is a great way to make sure that they're staying engaged in the lesson. Not only is she instructing with the whole class through examples, but she's also having individuals practice. I liked that the girl that came up to the board was really unsure about doing the second problem, so the teacher said she could do the third one, which helped boost her confidence instead of shutting her down or making her feel incompetent. I do think that she could have kept engagement up amongst the other students that are watching the students at the board by maybe asking them to look at a different problem that's coming up or something along those lines, just to make sure that they're staying engaged.
So on the test, that would be all we would have to put?
should go. It's
Is that all right with you? Yeah.
It needs just to be clear that you understand.
The student asks if all she has to write is the definition on the assessment, and this just goes back to my point that I wish the teacher had been more definitive on what is expected on the assessment. The student isn't sure if they're supposed to write 3 sentences or just write the definition, and they end up saying it's fine, and then the teacher is going to continue explaining what the expectation is, but it's still not super straightforward.
So if you guys put down just like circled the different words for prefixes and suffixes and roots, or put slashes in between them, we wouldn't really accept that because it's not really explaining why, all right, and it doesn't show that you actually understand the meaning of each of the words. So the best thing to do is just to put a little explanation or put down the meaning underneath each of the things. Okay. Oh, she's doing it? Yeah.
I hope you can see this color.
It's better than the other.
Yeah, it's better than the yellow this morning.
That's really spelled.
You guys got these calculus markers today?
Yeah, Sailor picked that color. Back.
Man, I'm upset. Oh, so you got.
That'll be a good class this time, though. Let's give that one. Yeah.
All right, you guys. So, do we think this is correct? Yeah? Okay. So, mine's a little different than how Ryan did it.
Did you bring up the LY?
Yeah, 'cause wouldn't it
I
be-
broke up the LY.
Yeah, stick of.
Okay, so how, I'm just gonna put mine right next to his, okay, so to show you guys how I did. I don't know if you guys can see that over there.
We can, just don't
Okay.
go too far.
Don't go too much farther.
This teacher seems to be really good at creating a positive environment for the students. They do respond to the
Okay.
questions that she asks.
So, like Ryan and I did separate the end, point for you, okay? And then I have click. Is that a root word?
Apparently.
There was an error in the second problem, so the teacher uses that as a learning experience and has students help her get to the right answer. Overall, I think the video had good quality, and I think that the teacher did a great job keeping the students engaged. There was definitely a few things that I would change, but overall, I think the students had a good learning experience.